got for us?
A good show.
I am Andrew.
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get into
So the point being is good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen. And we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between...
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
And trying to beat me is exactly what Bud's going to do, because we are coming down to the end of the PGA regular season, which means our season-long DraftKings competition is also coming to an end. We're going to get you those scores later on, but we have a massive show for you tonight. Lots of big news. Phil can't keep his mouth shut. Big surprise, keeping us with jobs over here. And then Tiger, some big news. And then, of course, how can we forget, the ever-riveting and exciting 3M Open, Lee Hodges, 7 strokes. Sure, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll get to our picks, but as always, I am Andrew LeDuc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard, here on Divots and Pivots, joined as always by Bud Copeland. Bud, bring us into the show. What do we got going on?
Champ is here.
The champ, that's what I love to hear.
The champ is here. I don't know if you got my... What are you drinking there tonight?
It is F. Stephen Millier. It's apparently something called a Lodi wine.
Lodi?
We're learning out here.
Yeah, somebody hit us up in the
Lodi.
Lodi. Anyways.
Lodi, something like that. Whatever.
I won my club championship this weekend.
Let's go.
First tournament I've won probably in 20 years. I feel good about it. I didn't think I would be as excited as I was, but then I got a great group of guys that I play with every week or every other week. I'm like I think I've told you about them. There's a solid force of dudes that I got in with just by sheer happenstance. And inevitably somebody's out, every weekend. And so they'll call me up and let me play with them. And it's a lot of fun, especially because we get out at like 6:10 and we're done by 10:30. It's phenomenal.
The best.
You have your entire Saturday left. Anyway,
so
this last weekend was the club championship. After day one, I was 2 behind some college kid from Merrimack. And day 2, his wheels got a little wobbly and Boudreaux tightened up. I went 76, 73. Nice. And here's this is the part that I really thought, here we go again. I haven't learned anything, none of the work. So there's a short par 3/4, par 4 third, anyways, short par 4 third, and I put myself in great position, and and the wind could knock down my wedge a little bit, so I had 25 feet for birdie, no big deal. I 4-putt for double, and immediately,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I had no 3-putts on the weekend.
After this, let's walk through that 4-putt because I want to know how that happened.
I blasted it by 7 feet. I left it short 7 feet. And then it was wet as shit, and they were slow. It took a while to get used to them. And then I blast that one by 3 feet, and then you miss the comebacker. And at that point, you're seeing red. But I put myself in position on the next hole, and then fat the wedge going up the hill, end up making bogey. Where do you think my blood pressure was at that point? If I was wearing one of those little Whoop bands like the foreplay guys were wearing it was fucking hilarious. Watching Trent run to catch up to an interview and then hearing what his heartbeat was like 188. Tip of the cap to the Barstool fellas. I hope they had fun at the NV5 Invitational Corn Ferry Tour, which is a big deal for all of us in this digitalized sphere, because whatever your feelings are about them, whether you listen to them or not, they've done something there that's going to help all of us and kind of break that barrier of
course they have.
You don't have to be from a specific line and presentation, as long as you're doing it, with good intentions and fun, and you're not interfering with the players. And the players seem to enjoy it. I'm sure there's some who we're going to chirp about it. But had I been wearing one of those Whoop bands, I probably would have been at a 188 like Trent was running down the hill. But that's just because I was about to lose my mind. So the next hole is a par 4 downhill short, and they moved the tees up for the second day to entice guys to go for the green. So I pull out the driver, hang a gigantic fade up there. There was a huge left to right wind, and we're watching this thing tracking, and it lands 10 yards short of the pin. I mean, right there, just off the green. So I did have to hit a little flip wedge. So I was 10 yards in front of the green. So I was thinking about 25 yards total. I flip a wedge up there to 4 feet, miss the putt.
No.
I can't tell you the last time I was that close to throwing a club, like breaking something out of just sheer anger. I've hit it off a. Am I interrupting your conversation over there?
No, I don't know why. It's ESPN. ESPN's giving me all these MLB trade deadline vibrations, and so don't they know I don't care about baseball?
So I'm 3 over through 5, having just missed a short birdie putt, and I go to the 6th hole, par 3, and they have these tees back. Normally it's like a 125 downhill little chip shot, and the back tees, just for funsies on Sunday, made it 195, but downhill with the slope, probably playing like 178. So again, had a little bit of wind helping. Throw an 8-iron up there, and all way probably 10 yards off the green, and it just kind of floats left on down 15 feet below the hole. I make birdie, come back on the next hole, make another birdie, come back on the next hole, which is nice. 190-yard par 3, making up and down for par. Steadied the wheels, no more mistakes coming in. 73 for the day, and I came in, and they were like, "What'd you shoot?" Because the kid actually, I think, shot 74, 78, something like that, and so. It was enough to do. It was enough to win the A flight, and my buddy came up runner up in the B flight, and then we all went for drinks afterwards at the yacht club. It was actually very nice of him. The Corinthian Yacht Club over there in Marblehead. I
don't know where that is or what that is, but honestly,
like I know where that is. It's out on Marblehead Neck. So there's this little peninsula that juts out off of Marblehead, which is itself a peninsula, and so it's just gorgeous houses and beautiful views and everything. I asked him, I was like, "Do you even sail?" He's like, "Nope."
Nope. He's a phenomenal dude. And that's what we're drinking tonight.
You're French, right? Like you have a French background?
I mean, my last name is.
This is French. His nickname's Grand-Père, which I guess is French for grandfather or something.
It sounds very French. So yeah.
The moral of the story is, I am the champ, and I'm going to dine out on this for the next year. Might even have to change my title in the show. I'll talk to the producers afterwards and see what they think, what they feel about it. But the champ is here. It was a wonderful weekend. Speaking of champs, the USGA Junior, another phenomenal tournament, by the way. The USGA is just getting banger after banger with these tournaments, with the locations. After you had the women out at Pebble Beach, now these young guys down at the Daniel Island Club. Now, Daniel Island Club in Charleston, I'm not open. It doesn't make my socks roll up and down. It's just a private, really nice course. But to watch these kids, and you think about what they have to do in an 8-day stretch. I can barely walk because I played 36 this weekend. I want you to hear what these kids have to do, and it's like 106 degrees on the course. So they go through two days of stroke play. So right there, okay, back to back, bam. And then they go into, if you're in the top 64, it's match play from there on out. So to win this tournament, you got to win like 6 matches in 6 days, that last one being 36 holes. It was impressive, and it came down to the wire, but an American kid won it. Brian Kim, shouts, he's going to Duke next year. And then, as you said, also the 3M.
That's good. Is Duke, correct me if I'm wrong, Duke's not necessarily the biggest golf school, is it?
No. I mean, it's not. It's a good golf school. They definitely have a solid program, but it's not an Oklahoma State or a Florida or a Georgia.
Yeah, I didn't think it was on the same level as those other ones. Yeah. Yes, I mean, good grab for them.
It's definitely on that level in the sense that because it's Duke, if the stars aligned, and because it's golf, if they get a couple breaks, you do see them up there. But no, they're not consistently a season favorite. So before we get into how boring the fucking 3M is, and then I want to hear your thoughts on Lee Hodges. I love this kid. Did you see anything about the U.S. Senior Open, or sorry, the Senior Open Championship, the Senior British? Did you see the weather? Did those guys had to get through?
So that's really all I saw about it was the weather they were playing, and it was basically Sunday at the Open Championship and ×4.
And I don't know why, but they were. I mean, I guess just because whoever followed Vijay Singh around got some great shots, but like you would have thought he won the tournament. I mean, he was in contention, but Alex Cheka, blast from the past, beat out Patty Harrington.
I remember Alex Cheka, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's a good comp? Who's a good comp for a modern Alex Cheka? Billy Horschel, maybe. I don't think either one won a major, but they've definitely won a handful of times on their respective tours. Sure. Cheka might have been bigger on the DP tour, but he won the senior, and then, like we said, the 3M Open. I mean, it was over as soon as Lee Hodges decided to play golf. And the Alabama kid, if you missed it, his coach was there on the 18th with a milkshake. to greet him, because I guess back at Bama they take the boys out for milkshakes if they do good on the course.
Well, and who was I'm trying to remember that. Was it JT Poston who was in second going into the final hole? And then what he triple bogeyed, right? Or something like that. I didn't even see it, but all of a sudden I saw he was down 3 going into the final hole. I was like, okay, Lee Hodges is going to win. And then I get 10 minutes later, I get an alert. Lee Hodges wins by 7. I was like, what? How did that happen?
Do you know how much that cost him? Did you see that part of it?
I did not know. Like I said, I did not give really any attention
Solo.
to the
what do you mean? You're not a degenerate golf fan? What are you getting ready for the Fantasy Expo next weekend?
I am. I do want
to hear about that. I do want to hear about that a little bit. But JT Poston. So yeah, if you weren't paying attention, Hodges had this thing locked up. Poston's coming in, and he's in solo second. And it's an easy par 5. He could have just taken his medicine, made his 5. But and he says this. I mean, you're down 5. There is no 5-stroke. There's no 5-stroke score. That doesn't exist in the game of golf. But his mentality is like, we're always playing to win. So what does he do? Goes for the green from a very questionable lie. Yeah, I'm not JT Poston, but hey, who the hell are we? These guys are pros. And he thought he could pull the shot off. Ends up dunking it in the water. Shit show ensues. He ends up tied for second, right? Solo second takes home $860K. T2 is like 540. So that shot, do the math, did him about $250,000. And everybody was chirping him about it. The people who asked him about it, that's all he said. He's like, we're out here to win. That's all my mindset is. So I went for it.
And look, I'm all right with that. I get that. From a business standpoint, I see where it was a bad decision, of course. If the guys out there knows he's obviously already going to lose, and he's been having to take his medicine all week from Mr. Lee Hodges, why not try to go out with a bang? Which just sounds silly to say. That anyone's taking their medicine from Lee Hodges.
The pay cut that poor caddy had to take. Shouts to Cutter. How'd you feel about that? If you just saw it, you just saw the next payment of your home go down the drain. All right, 3M was a snoozer, but it's a good story with Lee Hodges. Hometown boy makes good, and he's going to be in the playoffs. So he jumps up. So. And folks, if you don't know about the FedEx Cup playoffs, when you win a tournament, you get 500 points. If it's a major, I want to say it's 7. And if it's like a opposite field event, like the Barracuda, then it's like 4, unless you're Akshay, you get screwed out. That's a woof.
We talked about that a little bit last week. Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't realize he came out and he had now it's like, oh, he's a little upset with this. I'm like, yeah, I would be too. But it also is, try to reach deep down inside and just realize the stability. That's the cherry. You didn't get the cherry yet. He could still finish 4th this week, earn enough points, and get in there. Yeah. And there's some guys like that sitting on the outside looking in.
I have that list of guys if we want to go through them at some point and what they need to do to, at minimum, to have a chance at making the playoffs. Because there's some decent names on here that after the year that some of these guys have had, you'd be kind of surprised they're not in it right now.
Let's do that after we talk about Liv and Tiger and Phil. So pause on the tour talk. We'll get back to that in a little bit right before we get into our DFS picks for the week. If you're tuning in, then you're either a relative or you're going through some sort of torture, or you're just a degenerate golf fan like we are. Massive news, overwhelming. But when I say news, I'm using air quotes because let's be honest, it's golf gossip. So for us, massive news. And if you want to take the folks through the Phil part, I can hop on with the Tiger train, because I've been trying to get elbow deep into this policy board and see who's on it and what it actually means.
Yeah, because I want to hear what you have to say on that and see if that lends favor to a theory I have, because what you say may completely squash my theory, so I may never actually say my theory.
Oh God, you can't take what I say. You got to take what I say with a salt lick. But real quick,
we can. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh fuck! Now I lost it. Go.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start us with Phil then, because look, Phil came out with hit us with the 1-2 punch.
Remember, I made a truce with Phil. I made up with Phil a couple months ago. Okay, continue.
And I can't believe first of all, I'm looking at this picture from right now because I have the Instagram post pulled up on my phone. He's still rocking that, what we now know is highly copyright infringed high flyer logo that lived completely jacked from I think it was a Brazilian skateboarding company.
Yeah,
something like that.
Who do you think has the better lawyers?
I know. No, I know exactly. That's going to get squashed. Sure. But
Yeah.
That's a side story. But no, so Phil puts out there on Instagram. First of all, anytime you start a social media post with an emoji, you lose all credibility with me. So Phil, great start there with the laughing, crying emoji to kick it off.
I'm a big emoji guy, but I think they go.
I'm a big
continue.
emoji guy too, but it's more like an at the end. Don't start it because then you're just leave it to the end. But anyway, so he starts off with the crying, laughing, and then says, "What a colossal waste of time! Not a single player on Live wants to play the PGA Tour. It would require a public apology and restitution to Live players for paying millions to clout media to disparage all of us. A better topic is future sanctions for the many players who now come to Live." He's still living in this delusion that
I'm not dead yet.
Many players are gonna go to Live. Like all of that is just a bunch of like hoopla. He's being pissy and angsty. That's the biggest thing I get out of that. He still is in this delusion.
I like that that's where you started because I didn't even consider that part about it. There is a story there. Greg Norman recently said that his phone's blowing up. Everybody wants to jump ship. How much of that is posturing and bluffing? And then I also try to keep my mind open to this possibility. I mean, just law of large numbers, man, between PGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, guys who aren't even on tour or holding tour cards. His phone probably is blowing up. I mean, he's not getting any more Cam Smiths or Brooksies. You know, I could see like a Patrick Cantlay feels like the kind of guy, and no offense to Patrick Cantlay, but I'm saying like that kind of caliber because he is one of the best golfers on the fucking planet, but he's not a huge fan favorite. People don't turn up for, Patrick Cantlay. Love his game. I wish I had his putting stroke, but he's the kind of guy who'd be like the last of anything big and splashy because I think everybody else is just going to be smart, stay pat and see where this other thing's going, which we predicted from the start. But what I love about this is if he's not lying, I mean, maybe they're doing a little straw poll and a game of phone tag and some group texts and he's hyperbole, but he's like, there's not a lot of interest in like the big names going back. Like we like our lives now. And as long as Liv's around, we're just going to do this and see at the majors, that kind of shit. I think it's all just bluster. I think they're going down. Mm-hmm. I think Tiger coming the counter punch by the PGA Tour. If you missed it, and it wasn't punch for punch, but it felt like it. It did feel like almost like this is a good time to throw this. But I think
this felt like it was something that was happening all along too. It's just the timing of it coming out just lined up perfectly with Phil.
I don't think. It was. This has just been this has been like what they've been keeping off the board. Like this player, just waiting on the bench. Jordan's on the bench. Don't worry about it. We'll bring him in when we need to. 2 minutes left in the game and we need to win. Come on. Mm-hmm. And it almost does feel like it's there. And it's his. He's flat out said, the commissioner has my confidence moving forward, which to me is almost like case closed. If you want to go talk to the Godfather and express your disdain, do it. But publicly, no more. Let's all get on board. I'm with Jay. John's with Jay. JT's with Jay. Like, you can still have your gripes, and I agree with Xander where it's like, all right, we're moving forward, but I don't think there's anything wrong with saying you don't have my support anymore. Like I don't fully trust you, but I get the direction this is going, and I think that was a little bit of everybody shut up. So Tiger is going to be basically on the board of directors essentially. Yeah, and
as the player committee representative, something like that, right? Is that what the exact title was roughly?
He is about a policy tour board. So the PGA Tour Policy Board, this is their board of directors because remember, this is actually a 501c, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't want the designation to get wrong. It's a nonprofit. Sure. Nonprofit. No, I shouldn't do that because I'm a big defender of them and their stance. But you got this Ed Hurley and Jimmy Dunn. So it's like a board of directors, these two guys. And they're the ones who got this deal done with Yasser. And then Mark Flaherty, Mary Meeker, these are also people who sit on the board. And then there's a PGA Tour players. Yeah, there are player directors. And this is where we got, Patrick Cantlay. Guess he's not going to Live. But Patrick Cantlay, Charlie Hoffman, Peter Malnati, and Rory McIlroy and Webb Simpson. And if you remember, this is where Rory really took a lot of it. And tried to
Webb
take
Simpson's on that board too?
Yeah. I mean, you can't. He's
good Lord.
He looks like an accountant, but that's neither here nor there. They've added Tiger. They've added a whole new position and said it's Tigers. They created a spot on the board. And it was basically to say, all right, we hear you, and we'll take whoever you want to be your next player representative. And I think when Tiger called his own meeting last year, it was kind of like written on the wall. Who else? Who the fuck else would we get to do this? But it was probably also a bargaining chip for the players too, because now they actually, for the first time in the history, like outweigh the balance or now have the balance of power. They actually outnumber the other policy directors or the board. So this is huge because he has been very curt and direct about where his stance is, which he thinks that Norman's got to go. And if that's the case, then I think there might be a future for Liv. We've floated different ideas of what it could be. They could it could replace the PGA Tour's fall swing, or just be, they say like, here, you can have these couple of months because we're going to do our kind of BS fall series that allows the guys in the middle tier to earn some points and do that. They could, I still think they're going to scrap it altogether. I just don't think it's a marketable product. Well, also, remember Tiger's got his own team golf series lined up. Yeah. So,
yeah, and the CW is not going to be carrying Liv to the promised land. Here's where I do need. So just clear this up for me, because this is where I did need a lesson. So this position for Tiger was created by the existing, like Jay Moynihan and the existing PGA board. This wasn't like a player elected position.
Yeah, no, this was, it was kind of like from my understanding, because I'm looking at the website right now and Tiger's not on there yet, which means somebody in the comms department is not on their ball. I'm just kidding. Yeah. And because there's more guys like Steve Flesh, Jeff Maggart. There's an entire PGA Tour Champions division of the board, and then there's a couple of other folks like PGA Tour PAC chairman. And I think PAC is short for Pacific, to represent like Southeast Asia and Australia. Adam Scott's on there. There's a Korn Ferry, representative. So and David Toms is on this thing. So they're the ones that, run this whole nonprofit. But yeah, if this was like a brand new, and don't know if when Tiger retires, I don't know if they fill the spot. And I think they do, because with the way it's being presented is, we hear you want more representation. We're literally going to give you more representation. And the first one to fill that seat is going to be Tiger to help us figure all this out. And the language of Tiger, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so how do you think this affects the impending player vote on this deal? Does this swing in favor of denial or acceptance?
I am honored to represent the players of the PGA Tour. This is a critical point for the tour, and the players will do their best to make certain that any changes that are made in tour operations are in the best interest of all tour stakeholders. Jay Moynihan has my confidence moving forward with these changes. So
they're already viewing these changes as happening, and they're now looking further ahead as to how do we govern keeping the changes in check, basically.
Yeah, essentially, it's like there's that
to a reasonable amount.
It's almost like our government, right? We don't make decisions. We vote on people and say, "Hey, you go make those decisions." And so it's kind of like, all right, who's the constituency? You are. So we need more representation from that constituency. And so we're going to give them another seat in Congress or something if they create another one, although that's a whole different lecture altogether.
Let's not go down that road.
I was a civics teacher for a number of years, but this is a pretty big deal because, like you said, it does. I was civics, humanities, creative writing, and then and world geography. That was my little teaching career there. And I was also a dean.
Nice. Yeah, you need to join the trivia team, man.
This is huge because it, like you said, it does confirm basically they're saying, okay, we get it. Changes are going to happen. I think it's going to go through. I don't think, because also if you look at who we just talked about, Patrick Cantlay, Rory McIlroy, Charlie Hoffman, I don't know. We know where Rory stands, and he's like, fuck Liv, it's got to go. And so I think that's just going to be it. I think Liv's gone. Greg Norman's out. They're not going to, and Phil Mickelson is on some very, very strong coffee somewhere because
he just keeps digging deeper and deeper into this.
Now, I will say,
double, triple, quadruple down.
Nobody owes anybody. Yeah, exactly. You don't always have to go for the green tin cup.
Oh wait, you telling me he keeps making bag bets? No, shocker of the year.
That's a low blow. That's a low blow. Apparently, he's paid off all his bookies, and then he got.
I wonder how.
Of capital. But it is that's a bit rich. You owe us an apology and restitution for dragging your names through the mud. Phil, nobody owes anybody an apology. You're all adults and big boys. Accept what's going on and move on with it, because I don't think that now. I think this is also him being pissed off that there's going to be fines or some sort of penalties or a process for anybody who wants to come back. Nobody's going to come back anyways. It's stupid over there. Okay. I beg to differ. I think some of these guys, because
And let's remember what this PIF deal is basically going to be a slush fund for them to take care of these guys to basically say here's your money, here's your pacifier, let's move on.
And maybe like we've alluded to before, because I have heard the term equity thrown around a bunch with creating this new for-profit entity. And I mean, I don't know how you figure that out, but I guess there are smarter people than I who are around to do that. But they talk about having that being as some sort of compensation. Maybe it's as simple as if you did go to live and you went and got your bag, maybe they just flat out say, like, you 12 guys, it was made public. If you just attest to it, then you can come back. But that also means you're not entitled to any equity shares as they're being passed around in the future. Like you can go earn money on the course. I think it's gonna be a little more complex than that. But I say make them just go back to, like, all right, you can come on back, but you have to go Monday qualify and go to the Corn Ferry Tour or, somehow other way. Because then the guys who have their exemptions into the majors will still be able to play in those majors. And it's just gonna be a different kind of 9 to 5 in between. That's what I would want to do. But I'm a very forgiving man, as we've exhibited by my forgiveness of Phil. And the first thing I did was text you and say, this guy is a gift. This man just keeps on giving. It's beautiful. It is very delusional. And nobody owes anybody an apology, Philip. Just if you don't want to come back, don't come back. And quite frankly, I think there's this weird kind of Rory's already there. You were going to be the next Arnie. You were going to be the next kind of elder statesman business guy, really rock. And you decided to go over there for whatever reason. I don't fault you. I mean, especially the way you see him on Twitter talking about being worth $1 billion soon. It's like, good for you, man. That's what he was. Somebody was chirping him about gambling. He goes, my debts have been paid off for years, and I'm now close to being worth $1 billion. But thanks for checking in. And I thought to myself, why are you? I mean, you really are worth $1 billion. Unless you're Donald Trump, billionaires don't usually go around talking about being a billionaire. I mean, Mark Zuck, when you have that kind of money, apparently it's called beyond luxury. That's where you live.
Yeah, and you don't need to talk about it at all.
Yeah, exactly. They don't drive, $1 million cars. A lot of them, they're just, they're happy with their Escalade or whatever the hell they're driving.
But thank you, Phil, for giving us 10-15 minutes of fantastic conversation, as you always do.
Rambling.
Phil could often fill our entire show, and he just manages to piss me off more and more every time he opens his mouth. And it's a shame.
Okay.
Because Phil used to be a nice, fun-loving person.
It is August 1st, 2023.
Yes.
Will Liv be around August 1st of 2024?
Yes.
You think so? You think they'll actually make it through?
I still stand by. I don't think they're going to be pulling it completely that fast. I still give it another, as its own identity, I give it another 3 years. But I do think once this all kind of gets formed, some of their biggest names will not be playing over there anymore on the Live Tour. I say over there, it's not an over anywhere, but you know what I mean. They won't be playing exclusively for Live anymore. Which is why I think but I think it's going to be like a bit of a slow regression. It's going to take a few years, I think. And it's just a possibility in my mind that I want to happen, though, because they say they have to have this deal done by the end of the year. But again, they gave themselves an out that says, as long as we're making progress, then we'll extend the deadline. Maybe they do. Again, this is 12 hours old, not even. This was like 3 hours ago or 5 hours ago, whatever the hell it was, that they announced that Tiger's on this board. And to me, I'm just thinking to myself, Tiger also doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to fuck around. He doesn't waste. He's not going to waste time. He's been thinking about this very, he probably is going to come in with his recommendations, quote unquote, and folks are going to go, sounds good to me. Like, let's close the fucking book on this and move on. I could see one of those things being Live is just done after this season. They just say, don't even try for 24. And those guys who are on Live, we'll figure out in 24 if they want to come back in 25. They just have to sit out a year. You know what I'm saying? Like almost like a 1 year suspension for, you forfeited your contract. They'll find something in the contract to say breach contract. So here's the penalty. And if you want to come back, just do that. I want it to move that fast because did you even know there's a Live event at the Greenbrier this weekend? I didn't know it was this weekend. I knew there was going to be one at the Greenbrier. I didn't realize it was this weekend, though. That's competing with the Wyndham Championship? Jeez.
Hey, don't knock the Wyndham Championship. It's like the third oldest event on tour.
I'm trying to say like the Wyndham Championship will be better than the the Greenbrier Live event. That's what I'm saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
You said it mockingly. Did you know the Greenbriers actually? You've heard that it's like a bunker for the House of Representatives and the Senate. It fucking blows my mind, that kind of shit. All right, so Live's at the Greenbrier. We're at like Sedgwick Country Club or some other shit. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about some of these players who are on the outside of the 70, looking on the inside, what they have to do this week, and why I'm still in love with JT. And we'll get all over that after we give a shout out to our boys.
Nailed it. Underdog. I was waiting for you to finish it. You said at Underdog. You just stopped talking.
I was so proud of myself.
Underdog Fantasy. Yes, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
I was staring at the Fantasy National logo and I couldn't get there. Damn.
You almost nailed it. We'll be right back after a quick word from Underdog Fantasy with all of our Wyndham Championship info.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
Good girl, Gingerbread, as always. Let's get into this Wyndham Championship. So we got a few topics to start off with. And before we even get to the guys who need to do something to make it into the FedEx Cup playoffs here, let's finally give you a numbers update on this season-long competition between Bud and I.
Something to close the gap.
But the gap isn't big. So you said it earlier in text that you said you figured by this point in the season one of us was going to pull away by a few 100 points or so. But we've truly been back-to-back all year. So here's the updated season standings right now. I'm holding a slim lead of 127 points right now going into this week. So Bud is not too far behind me. All it takes is a couple missed cuts for me and a perfect 6-for-6 lineup for him, and I could be in some real trouble here in having to get Bud a fancy six-pack. So,
well, now that I'm back on this I mean, I was training hard for that club championship. I don't know if you heard 76-73, take home the win. The engraver got COVID, so he wasn't on site to do the trophy right then and there, but the trophy is en route. We'll have it on the show as it makes the rounds. But yeah, no, I really did.
Yeah, I want a town visit to every town where you've played other tournaments. I'm going to
be dining out on this all year.
No, bring that trophy around to all the other towns you've lost tournaments in and say, look, I did it. And just rub it in their
faces. I got the Mass Mid Amateur next Thursday. So I guess a couple weeks we'll have some more content. We'll see if Bud can hold it together.
What time's that at?
8:30 a.m. And Bud's redemption tour continues. I beat the shit out of my brother-in-law after he chirped.
I might have to come out and check you out early in the morning because my flight doesn't leave for the expo until like 5 that night, and I'm off the whole day. So I might have to take a little morning trip just to say hi and wish you luck.
Come kill some time. All right, back to the Wyndham. And back to the fantasy. So we've got a little bit of a gap. We're not the only ones. There's some players, some familiar faces, some big names that still have a gap to fill, and it's not undoable, especially when you consider who these people are. So why don't you start getting into some of these guys? I don't have it up in front of me. I'm actually
I got the list right here.
Good Donald Ross.
I will say, courtesy of I'm gonna get the name wrong, but our friends over at the Fantasy Golf Pod. I just lost. I minimized it by accident. Hold on. Yeah, the Fantasy Golf Pod. Over there, they put this list together. So I am 100% stealing it. So if you're watching this, guys, thank you. But so what this comes down to is there are 6 guys between 65 and 70 that are currently in the playoffs. Matt Nesmith, Vincent Norman, JJ Spawn, Ben Griffin, Cam Davis, and my favorite name to say, because I say it different every time, Austin Eckroat, whatever it is. All those guys are currently in right now. They need to do pretty much anything between a two-way tie for 11th to T29. and they'll be in. They'll hold their spot.
Which is nothing to sniff at. Top 30 in a PGA Tour event is tough.
Oh yeah, that's still going to take some work from them. What's more interesting though is that there's a handful of guys just on the outside looking in here. Names that we've obviously been talking for weeks now. Justin Thomas is one of these names. Has not been playing well. He's in 79th right now. He needs to finish solo 18th at minimum to get to have it, not even to definitely get in, because obviously it depends on the guys in front of him but to have a chance to get in, needs to finish solo 18th. But the guy that surprised me, because he's a guy that you've been on a lot this year, and I thought was playing better than this, Shane Lowry on the outside looking in right now in 76th. That one caught me by surprise as I look through this list. He needs to finish 2AT 23rd at minimum to have a chance this week. Do you think he does it?
Yeah, I like him and JT to finish high this week and sneak in there, because we're at a ball striker's course. Distance is not necessarily king here. You look at the past champions. Tom Kim, defending champ, out after he finishes a top 10 with like a fractured ankle. I mean, that's some tough stuff. Basically,
yeah, but I think he deserves a week off.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm pretty sure he's in anyway. So. Yeah, I do actually like those guys. Adam Scott needs to finish like top 10 to get in there. I don't,
Yeah, where was he here? Oh yeah, right down there. Yeah,
T1 or something like that.
Joel Dahman can still get in with a ninth place finish. Justin Saw needs a T19.
And your boy Akshay can get in with a T4 or better, and that's going to be a stretch. I mean, kid's good. I mean, this is again not an opposite field event, and you do have some of the bigger players. Who knows though? We've seen it before. Maybe for that kid being kind of slighted and having the confidence to win, and it's a ball striker's course, and the kid is nasty with his irons. So maybe Akshay can work some magic. I do like some Shane Lowry and Justin Thomas this week because I'm
not against it.
I think it's worth
they're the type of guys that know what they need to do this week, and in this type of field. So here's the thing. I think that about Shane more than I do about JT right now. JT does not look right.
No, he does not.
JT does not look right now. So is it just his putter though? When you watch him, is it just his putter?
Yes, because that's the anchor of confidence. Ooh, anchor of confidence.
What was the other one? The
comfort zone of confidence.
Comfort zone of confidence, and now we have the anchor of confidence. Oh man, we're just gonna have a confidence line.
If you've been paying attention, I'm just blindly confident in JT right now. But I kind of want it to happen, but also it's one of those things I would be shocked
want it to happen too.
But those missed cuts, I mean, that's some embarrassing shit. And
I had the thought today, and this is probably too far. So I know that I'm admitting this is too far of a thought. JT's not at this point yet, but I feel like it needs to be said because I think he's dangerously close with heading down this road, depending on how he handles the mentality here. Do we see there's a chance he goes down a Jordan Spieth route? We saw Jordan Spieth struggle for a few years. It doesn't have to be. It might not be. I lean towards it not.
No, because
I need to see what he does as far as you already alluded to, the confidence part here, because that's what was Jordan Spieth's downfall, and then obviously he had some injuries mixed in too, which didn't help.
I think
JT luckily doesn't have injuries.
I think he's a little more mechanical and technical, and that's always been his thing. So it's once a couple putts start dropping or there's something weird with this field that he's just missing. With Jordan, I do think it was much more of a mental thing because he is an emotional and creative and like kind of gunslinger out there, while again JT is much more mechanical and kind of technical in the Tiger kind of vein. So I mean, I'm rose-colored glasses though. He hasn't shown me anything other than he is going absolutely into the deepest depths of the yips and whatever other word you want to use. And maybe he misses out on Rome. There was people kind of, Zach Johnson kind of came out and gave him a little vote of confidence. But then again, the athletic director always comes out and says, "Coach has my full confidence," and then next Monday gets fired. I think if he can. I think he's got to just basically win one of the next 3 weeks to get on there, or maybe just have like 3 top 10s and bow out gracefully, before East Lake, something like that.
Yeah. So we'll see
Just
with
don't think
that.
it's likely. I do agree with you. Shane Lowry looks like he's been playing pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm much more willing, or not willing. I'm much having an easier time seeing Shane Lowry. But let's get into our picks, because here's what I'm doing this week. My
What are
top
you doing this
10,
week?
my top 10 this week is incredibly chalky. So, but I'm determined to beat you. So I'm going to play two different lines. I'm going to play, since it's one-on-one with you, chalk doesn't matter. I'm going to play my top 6 because I can make the money work. I'm playing my top 6 against you, and I'm going to roll with that. But that is not what I would be entering into GPPs, because the ownership is ridiculous on my top 6. I'm talking like 16, 18, 20% ownership projected.
You know what?
Let's get in.
You know what's funny is I'm looking at my top 10 because you said that, because mine's pretty diverse in price ranges. I can make my top 6 work. I might just roll my top 6 against your top 6 and we'll see what happens.
Oh, maybe we have the same top six
But
for all we know. We'll
I'm going to put some money. I'm going to put a couple. I'm going to put a little something here and there around on some other lineups. So let's get into it. Starting at 10K and above range. I hate that Sungjae M ranks out 4th in my model, but I kind of like that he ranks out 4th in my model because I have some love for. He's been shaky lately.
We definitely don't have the same top 6 then, because he ranks out 38th in my model.
Oh, God. Quick pause. Totally buried the lead. My key 3 of the week, and I've actually kept it pretty consistent. Pause. Sedgwick Country Club Donald Ross course was redesigned back in 2008 or 9. But
did you just pause your pause? First of all, did you just pause your pause?
2 pauses. You never go deeper. Have you seen Inception? We're not going to go any deeper, so no more pauses. You can't go 3 layers deep. It's unstable, not unlike myself. Sedgwick Country Club, Donald Ross. So putting's going to be a premium. They're 6,000 square foot greens, so they're not massive, but they're not tiny. And again, Donald Ross with those little typical elevated greens. So strokes gained putting is going to be on a premium, but it's only 7,000 yards, par 70. Not exactly a bomber's course. And when it was getting overgrown just before the renovation, a lot of trees had grown over the years and really made it narrow. So you got to find the fairway. So strokes gained, ball striking, because again, off the tee and approach, those are my 2 core. And then opportunities gained, because I do think that the course can be had. So as long as you're being consistent with your scoring and you're not making too many mistakes, I mean, we could see another, score in the teens, maybe even mid to high teens, especially.
Well, that's what we said last week. I was surprised that Hodges was able to push it to 24. So that was surprising. He had a
freaking week. So what are your
I think he was just on one. So we're not too far off from each other, because my key 5 is putting and approach, as always. Opportunities gained, I also have in there, so we're aligned there. Really, the only difference then is, the only difference to me is I always include the yardage differences. So approach shots 150 to 175, and then par 4 is 400 to 450, because that is pretty much this entire course.
It's the entire course.
It's all in that variety, that range of distances. Could not form that sentence for the life of me.
That's okay. The par threes are pretty balanced. A couple at $170 something, and a couple at like 220, 230. So that's a good yardage for those approach shots that you're looking at.
Yeah, so you mentioned the 10K range, and the bottom line is, for me, in my 2 scenarios, I'm not really playing the 10K range, because none of the 10K guys end up in my top 6 for playing cash, and because I can afford my top 6 as far as DK salaries go. And then as far as GPP goes, they are all just either don't rank out well, or are just the ones that are ranked out well are just chalky. The closest thing I would come to is would be Hideki. He's only 12-13%, but at 10-6, 12-13, it's not terrible. But I would rather probably play Sam Burns at 10,000 at only around 10-11% ownership I was choosing the GPPs.
I'm off the Sam Burns train. I was tooting his horn recently, but after missing the cut at the Open, and it just really stung me. So I'm down on the Sam Burns. Russell Henley and Sungjae both actually rank out pretty high for me, but I'm with you. I'm just not ponying up dough this week. I think there's a shit ton of talent throughout the field. And you got a lot of hungry guys. So looking for a little bit of leverage elsewhere. And so, but if, truth gun to my head, if I had to play anybody in the 10K range, I probably would play Russell Henley. Again, ranks out 6 in my model. And he did miss the cut at the Open, but if you look at before that, everything in top 30 to top 35 for like 6 weeks straight. So he's going to make. I think he's going to make the cut here at the Wyndham,
Sure.
And
Wyndham.
And he could give you some action, but I don't know if I'm going to throw him into any kind of money lineups.
Yeah, and then as we enter into that 9K range, we talked about Shane Lowry already. He's 9,500, and look, he ranks out 18th in my model. 9,500. If you believe, like if let me pause. I'm confusing myself now. He's around 10. He's also around 10-11% ownership. So I actually don't mind that ownership at that price for 9,500 for a guy who does stand out when it comes to this field. He stands out in this field. So I could see Shane Lowry being able to make that push. So he could very much be worth the money at 9,500. I do not mind that as a GPP play as well. I like that. And yeah, look, if you believe, just because we talked about Mario, if you believe in JT, if you believe it really is just the confidence in his putting stroke, which we know you can fix overnight because it can change the other way, go from good to bad.
So sometimes these guys, it clicks on like the practice green that morning every once in a while, like something. They just keep grinding.
So if you believe it's just his putting, which I get, because look, when you look at how he ranks in opportunities gained, he's second in opportunities gained, 23rd in approaches, and then as far as my yardages go, he's top 50 in the yardage, the distances too. He's under 5% ownership this weekend, so everybody does not have confidence in JT right now.
Yeah,
and I get it. I'm not gonna play him unless I play multiple GPPs, and I might sprinkle one or two of him. But I get it if you do. So
I agree with your logic on Shane Lowry, by the way, and that is the smart pick at around 10%, 11% for that price, and the way he's consistent. But there are three names in the 9K range that, and if you're listening to me this week, then I don't know what you're thinking. But I'm playing the desperation cards with JT and Adam Scott because you get good leverage. And JT at 9,100, I could just be buying as the stock is still diving, but I do think we've hit close to rock bottom after he misses the cut at the 3M and two majors.
That wouldn't shock me, yeah.
And also, he made his pro debut at this tournament when he was like 16 years old. So there's that little bit of kind of karmic, I love my astrology mixed in with my golf. So
maybe it does matter in golf, though. You're not wrong.
Maybe the stars align for JT, and Adam just decides to make one last run because he's getting close to Matt Kuchar age, and where you don't know if he's actually got another one in him. We saw Justin Rose win earlier this year, and I think that's where Adam Scott is, where that kind of like. Squeeze one more out there. But Ludwig
he's had a better year than people expected him to, so I'm there for Adam Scott.
Ludwig Aberg. I've been big on this kid since he turned pro, and I just like to see green boxes when I'm looking at my leverage charts. When you're looking at the ownership charts, green is good. It means not a lot of people. You can find the leverage there. And since he turned pro, he's got a let's see here. 25th at the RBC, 24th at the Travelers, 40th at the Rocket Mortgage, 4th at the John Deere. He did miss the cut at the Genesis, but hey, you got to give him a little bit of credit for making the trip. And then 64th at the 3M. So I know he had a rough week last week, but I think it's worth a look, especially if you're talking that kind of leverage. What is he at right now? 4%.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the kind of guy where he ended up having a rough week last week. So he made the cut, obviously, but didn't really finish or round out well. But this is one of those situations where a lot of people played him last week, got burnt, and that's why you're going to see his ownership so low this week in this type of situation. So with what you're saying, you're 100% right. With his performances recently, last week tends to feel like an outlier compared to the rest of the weeks. Now, you could also say he's bordered that with a miscut as well. So maybe it's the start of a downward trend, miscut, and then a T64. But that's what we're doing here. This is gambling. This is sports. You're taking risks. And Ludwig Aberg is also a guy who has North Carolina ties, and that's where we are this week. So this is a guy who very well could pop up in your top 20 finishes this week at a very good ownership leverage.
Real quick, what are his North Carolina ties?
I don't know exactly. I just saw someone else say it. Thank you for blowing me up.
No, he's from Sweden. He was like Texas Tech. That's why I was curious. Maybe he went to summer camp there.
He was just on a list of like a bunch of guys in the field that have North Carolina ties. So I didn't research every single one of their North Carolina ties, but he was on that list, and I noticed that.
I'm going to add that to my reasons to play him. Then a couple weeks ago, I called it on the show. I said this just feels like a Sepp Straka week, and then he wins the John.
Right.
Deere. Yes, that was one of like 10 names I put out there. Great, whatever. But you didn't call his name. I did. Not you, Andrew. You, the listener.
I know what you mean.
Call his name. I did. This, Matty Wolf got his first win at the 3M, and then he went off. And thoughts and prayers to Matty Wolf. Somebody put out a missing person report on that guy. I feel bad after Brooksy stuffed him in the locker.
Yeah,
he wins. Colin Morikawa wins his first tournament kind of this time of year. Whatchamacallit? Who's the kid who looks like he's stoned from Norway all the time? You love him, Victor Hovland.
No, Victor Hovland. Yeah,
he got.
You know what? I've never heard anyone say that, but you're 100% right.
Looks like he's roasted the whole time, and I know he's not. He's a world-class golfer. He's not stoned out there. But on the social media, you see all these pictures because he's just kind of squinting and just grinning.
Yeah.
This feels like a Ludwig Aberg, gets his first win because he's on that trajectory. We thought it was going to be Sam Bennett at this point of the year. He's still out there. He's not gone missing. But Ludwig Aberg. I would look to him a little bit for the karmic play. So if you believe in that kind of shit, JT, Adam Scott, and Ludwig, drop Adam from that if you have to. Give Ludwig some love.
I'm there for it. And as we venture into the 8K range, we find 3 guys I'm going to be playing against you, but are just way too chalky for me to play in GPP lineups. Starting with my number 1 ranked guy in this field this week for me, and that's Denny McCarthy. But unfortunately, everybody else agrees because he's at around 20% projected ownership, and that is brutal. So Denny McCarthy will be played against Bud, but not in GPPs. I also like Aaron Rye at 8,600, but same thing, 15% ownership is a little high for me with Aaron Rye. And then Alex Smalley ranks out third in my model as well at 8,100, but 18.2% ownership for Alex Smalley seems just out. I had to look at it at least 3 times because that's outrageous. So once again, I'll be playing him against you, Bud, but I will not be playing him in GPPs because that's just silly.
Alex Smalley doesn't sound like a real human being.
Right.
8K range. Actually, my model, I got a couple of 8K guys that I'm going to be playing against you just from straight up in the model. And I might give Taylor Moore another look because he's a name that's been floating around the leaderboards a lot. Only, I think, was he 7% ownership high in my model. So you're probably going to see him both in my lineup against you and elsewhere. And like I said, I just said it, ding, ding, ding. He's number 1 in my model. 5th in my model. Don't know if I'm going to play him. I mean, he's not too chalky, but Chris Kirk. And again, this feels like a Chris Kirk type of week where, but I know we saw him win recently and kind of get the monkey off his back and have his full comeback. But, he's also the kind of guy that it wouldn't shock me if he won because it's like, oh yeah, he's been there before. He knows how to finally get it done and close. Which totally contradicts what I said a minute ago about, the stars aligning for Ludwig to break through and some young whippersnapper. But I'm trying to convince myself to do the right thing. And somebody who doesn't rank out well for me is Aaron Rye. And that's for that reason only I'm going to pass. I'm a Rye guy, but I think between the ownership that you talked about and the fact that he's 85th in my model, I'm going to pass. And Denny McCarthy can go fuck himself because I relied on him to be an anchor. It was supposed to be a putting open, and he just totally no-shows. So Denny,
he did kind of no-show with that. He still ranks out first in the field in putting though.
I know the guy. He's so good. He can, and we're back in Parkland Golf. So we are back stateside. Yep. Maybe it's like one of those things. I can't putt on those shitty greens over there because the British Open courses notoriously have not as good or fast greens as we would judge them because they're right next to the ocean. So you get what you get.
Sure.
So Denny McCarthy's a pass for me. Cam Davis seems to be a name that a lot of people like. He's 19th in my model. And he's only 12% ownership, so I might look at Cam Davis. But truth gun to my head, I'm going to be going with some Captain Kirk and Taylor Moore because of how they rank out. The leverage is there for good enough for my liking. I'm not too big on the leverage anyway. Like I don't really give a shit if I'm confident in a guy. I'm just going to pick him because hey, if he ends up winning, then you should have him. Everybody should have him. But Adam Hadwin's another one that is a name that I like. just because I like him and his wife's a great Twitter follow. But I'm passing on Adam Hadwin. So again, Kirk, Moore, come on down. You're the next contestant on who can win for Bud.
I get it. Let's jump into the 7K range while we still have time, because the 7K range is large.
Are you saying I talk too much?
No. I just want to make sure we get as many picks out to the people for their sake, and so we can still claim victory even when we probably don't deserve it. So 7K range, there's a lot of guys in the 7K range that are valuable, worth playing, and the range itself is big. I'm going to start towards the top here. Eric Cole ranks 5th in my model, 7,700. Around 13-14% ownership. He's been a cut-making machine recently. He doesn't really have any crazy high finishes other than the Travelers T24 and the 3M he finished T30 this past week. But Eric Cole ranks out well. He 23 of 33 cuts this year. He's also another great putter. Ranks out second in this field right behind Denny McCarthy. And then the guy that ranks out well for me in this field and has good ownership, but for some reason I can't play him. I mentioned him a couple weeks ago. I mentioned him, it might have been 2 weeks ago. Lucas Glover, again, ranks out well. But for some reason, I just can't bring myself to play. Like, I have no confidence to play him, even though the numbers are telling me that he should do well here this week.
Where was it just recently that he was runner-up or right near the top?
So he finished T4 Rocket Mortgage. He finished T6 at John Deere, and then 5th at the Barbasol. So he had 3 straight weeks of top 6 finishes, but then he missed the cut the following week.
But what has he done after missed cuts? You look back after a missed cut, not really. 79th at Byron.
So it's really he really had this run of 3 tournaments recently.
He caught lightning in a bottle for
ended with missed cuts. Yeah, so that's why it feels like it's an anomaly, and I'm just not confident playing Lucas Glover, even though he ranks out well.
Well, I got a couple of guys in the 7K range that you're going to be seeing from my top 10 lineup. Notably, Taylor Pendrith. I know you're a big Taylor Pendrith guy.
So let's slow down on Big. I've played him like twice this year, so let's slow down on Big.
You're the founding member of his fan club, but he is an absolute stud with ball striking, and this is going to be one of those kind of courses. And he can roll the rock pretty well. I think he's like 45th in putting, which isn't horrible. And he knows how to score. Opportunities gained. He's top 10. So I like me some Taylor Pendrith. He's second in my model. And then this guy is shady as hell. He's rocky. He's back and forth. But when they come to North Carolina, he's a North Carolina guy. I can attest to that. He was born in Raleigh. Webb Simpson. This feels like a Webb Simpson venue. He's the North Carolina kid.
If you look up shaky in the dictionary, his picture's there when it comes to golfers. 100% right the way to describe the way you did.
But if you want to live free, you're going to play some Webb Simpson this week. And then top 10 in my model, so you won't see him, but Billy Horschel. And I think Billy's been struggling of late. But when I if I want to get froggy and free up some cash up top, I might take a flyer on a Billy Horschel because 13th at the 3M. He did miss the cut at the Open and at the Travelers. But he's been on a real rocky road. But 7.5.
The only way he makes it into the playoffs is with a win.
Right. And he, 7.5 strokes gained. And he's another one of those guys that is about to be sitting out this Ryder Cup while he watches other people. And he's got a couple of miles left on those tires. So maybe the stars align for him. But I really wouldn't put too much stake into it. I would stick with my other guys, Taylor Pendrith and Webb Simpson. I can't believe I blew right over this guy. And that's because he's 11th in my model, not top 10. But JJ Spawn had a pretty decent week last week.
He did.
And I played him. I don't know if I played him against you or if I just played him in my other league, which we're in the playoffs. I am going to make the playoffs. But 37th at the 3M. 37th at the 3M, 33rd at Rocket Mortgage, and he's a birdie machine when he gets going. So
he's been making cuts lately too.
Yeah, so JJ Spawn is probably going to get some love and some attention from me, which I know that he's going to be happy to hear about.
2 more quick guys I want to mention here in the 7K range I like this week, ranking out second in my model, Adam Schenk at 7,400. He just hits these the stats I'm using quite well. He's either a top 10 finisher or missing the cut right now, so he's a shot in the dark at 7,400. We will see. And then the other guy who's become kind of a recent in the past month or so favorite of mine to play is Ches Reavie once again, 7,100, under 9% projected ownership. He did miss the cut last week at the 3M Open, but he's been on a nice little run leading up to that, so I'm going to stick with him there. Do you have anyone in the 6K range that you feel the urge to mention?
I actually don't. What I'm more interested to hear about is, I mean, Ryan Moore is 7th, but there's no way in hell I'm playing Ryan Moore. What I'm more interested to hear about is if there's any fantasy football fanboy expo listeners out there, where can they find you? Where are you going and when? And are we still going to have a show next week?
Oh, we're gonna have a show next week because I will be going after. I won't be leaving until Thursday next week, and then I'll be coming back Monday. So actually, next week, no, not next week. Next week will be a normal show. The week after that, though, I will be broadcasting our show from York Beach in Maine. So that'll be fun. That'll be a good time. But yeah, so if there are football fans watching this out there, you're going to be at the Fantasy Football Expo at Canton, Ohio, at the Football Hall of Fame next weekend. That's where not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. That's where you'll be able to find me. I'll be there with the Fantasy Sports Corporation at the VIP booth section, giving you guys all the information you need. We'll be doing giveaways, we'll be doing live shows, having a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there Thursday to Monday. If anybody's in the area, come check me out.
Love that. Love that. I love that.
That's the key.
I can't wait for next week's show. We'll get into the FedEx Cup playoffs, explain how all that works and why they do that stupid thing at East Lake at the end. We will also recap any weekend golf action and enjoy your week, folks.
Yes, enjoy your week. And as always, thank you for joining us here as you do every Tuesday, 8 o'clock here in the Fantasy Sports Corporation. We look forward to talking with you guys every week. Join in the chat as you always can, and we will see you next week to recap the Wyndham Championship and getting ready for the FedEx Cup playoffs. Have a good night, everyone. We will see ya.